the debate. I feel like it is wildly dangerous to give Trump this kind of platform. You know, it's like, did we not learn enough about, you know, giving him a bunch of free advertising? And I know a debate is whatever, like it's like part of the decorum. You're supposed to do it, whatever. But the like insane that he says, like the fact that there are people who believe him, right? Like there are people who genuinely believe the things that he says, and they were correcting some things live, like some things. Okay, are you serious? So it just feels to me like we're just giving him a huge platform to say insane, and sometimes people are not going to believe it. You know, actually wowed me when he straight up denied the election again like that. Yeah. And the cats and dogs thing, like, oh, these immigrants are eating cats and dogs, these people's pets and everything. I guess I'm kind of glad that he said that on like a national platform, because that's some deep cut Twitter. You have to remember that the majority of Americans are not on Twitter. Like the majority of Americans are not out there reading JD Vance's Twitter and like up to date on all the conspiracy theories and stuff. So it just feels to me like that might have been the thing that like took away the most of his credibility. But there are still people like Republican parents and stuff who are like, yeah, he's got good ideas. He seems really knowledgeable. And he like kept bringing up the same points about immigration. Like he just wouldn't stop hammering on it the entire debate. Well, what about, and it was a deflection. Almost every time he brought up immigration, it was a deflection. He would be like, yeah, well, never mind about this thing that you're asking me about, but what about her and her letting in these people? I'm not saying that I was dramatically more impressed by Kamala Harris. Like, she disappointed me for completely different reasons, although they both do the thing where they're asked a direct question and then they deflect or dodge the question. I really wish that the debate moderators were a little bit more harsh when dealing with this issue. You know, what I really would like when I'm watching a presidential debate is if the moderator asks a yes or no question and then the candidate starts to answer with something more than yes or no. I think you should cut the mic and say, excuse me, Mr. President, or excuse me, Madam Vice President, I asked you a yes or no question. Restate the question and then open the mic again. And then if it's anything other than a yes or no question, like a yes or no answer, like I think that they should cut the mic off and be like, okay, so you refuse to give a direct answer. Thank you. And then move on. I also think that they gave Trump way too many opportunities to interject. Yeah, exactly. Gayfesh says, I want the moderators to say, you didn't answer the question in the allotted time. You will get no more speaking time until you answer yes or no, and you will not be allowed follow-up. There was like one time in the debate where they really didn't let one of the candidates say their clarification, and it was Kamala Harris. But every time Trump started talking when his mic was cut, they let him talk. It was insane, actually. The exit focus groups across the board favored Harris. The undecideds didn't like him in this debate. Not sure how anyone can be undecided at this point, but apparently Harris is getting them. Well, she did say, like, what she is trying to do during, and she didn't, whatever. During the debate, she said, you know, if the things that Donald Trump has done are a bridge too far for you, you have a place in our campaign. And what she's doing is she's trying to win Republican votes still. It's like insanely frustrating to me, and it's really kind of angering me because she's like, well, no, I'm not against fracking. I've never been against fracking. And then in the next statement, she's like, I'm fighting for the little guy and I'm fighting for the environment. It's like, no. You can't be pro-fracking and pro-environment and pro the little guy, because the little guy includes children whose water supply is being poisoned, and it includes rabbits and mice and deer and like wildlife whose environments are being destroyed. You can't be pro-environment and pro-gasoline. So I found her really disappointing. Really. There are so many non-voters on the left she could be bringing in. She will never get Republicans. Right, yeah. I've seen some people, like, there's a Republicans for Harris group starting And there's like a white men for Harris group starting. Yes, Kamala Harris also supporting Israel and I will say it was surprising to me that she suggested a two-state solution, that she suggested that Palestine should have sovereignty. But one thing that I noticed is that, so we had a conversation about Israel-Palestine, and then later in the debate, we had a conversation about Ukraine-Russia. And I find it really interesting that this phrase, blank has the right to defend itself, is only used for Israel. Have you all noticed that? Like when there's a conversation about should we be supporting Ukraine in their fight against Russia, we don't use this phrase, Ukraine has a right to defend itself, which furthers my feeling that that phrase is just a dog whistle for like Israel is going to do genocide and we can't stop them or we won't stop them. She's like, we need a ceasefire. And I'm like, no, we need a arms embargo. Yeah, does Gaza have a right to defend itself? Because truly, like, I think that that is the thing that is missed here. Does Palestine have a right to defend itself? Yeah, please kill me if Dick Cheney ever says he supports me. Like, who does she think she's winning over by saying that? Like, I just don't, I'm whatever. I was just really frustrated by the entire experience, really. And like, I'm glad that the exit polls are showing that Harris kind of won the popular view of that debate. But I am not impressed by her, and I'm not excited by what she brings to the table. She's going to be better than Trump. If I post this as a segment, and any of you annoying liberals keep saying, well, she's better than Trump, well, we still have to stop Trump, like, duh. I know. I just think that, like, I should be able to expect more from, like, the candidate that I'm being held hostage to. That would be great. Mitternacht and I are here to ask you to hit like on the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe. Click the bell if you feel like it. You don't have to, though. Feel free to check out the other links in the description because I sell merch like this cute tank top. I'm running a GoFundMe to try to move 2,000 miles across the country to a place where I have rights. And I have a Patreon he's smashing his face against my face. Like with Kamala Harris, like understand this, y'all. And I have been talking about this a little bit less on my show nowadays than like a few months ago, but we are going to have global food and water shortages within the next 20 to 30 years because climate change is not being stopped. It's accelerating. And unless we have a president who's like, we have to put a complete stop to fossil fuels, period, there's no stopgap. Like, it's just going to happen. So yay, we got a Democrat. We averted fascism when Kamala Harris wins. Cool. But like, she's talking about drilling for more oil in the United States. She's not talking about, I mean, Trump said something pro-solar energy, but like, I don't think Kamala said anything pro-alternative energy sources. And we would need to switch to alternative energy like 5 years ago to have a meaningful impact at this stage. So like, the issues that are most important to me were not mentioned, or were mentioned in a way that's like, okay, so you're not actually going to do anything to affect that. No discussion of the current huge wave of COVID, no discussion of the increase in disability claims, no discussion of raising the minimum wage. She keeps saying, oh, I'm here for the little guy. I'm here for the little guy. What about the minimum wage, ma'am? It's still $7.25. There is nowhere in this country that you can work. Even if you worked like 60 to 80 hours a week on minimum wage, you could not afford an apartment on your own. Trump was mostly anti-solar, but then he said, but I like solar, inexplicably in the middle of it. Yeah, he did. He was kind of like, it takes up too much land or something. I can't remember what he said. He said it takes too much desert land, which A, nope, and B, it's desert, who cares? He said he likes solar or whatever. But are we going to subsidize putting them on every single house? Are we going to subsidize putting them on every single, like, every corporate building? Are we going to build car parks? He was bemoaning the use of fertile desert soil. Also, when he said something about she's bringing in all these people from these asylums, from these these mental illness places. Does he believe that people who are asylum seekers, like who are immigrants for asylum, does he believe that they're coming from insane asylums? So it's kind of nice that we at least have Kamala Harris being like a younger person. She's in her 50s or something. That's why he keeps bringing up Hannibal Lecter. Oh my God. Because like before, when it was Biden versus Trump, everybody was so focused on Biden's like speech impediment and his flubs that he keeps making. But now we have like Trump as compared to someone who is young enough to be his daughter. Excuse me. And yeah, it just seems like it's much more obvious now that Trump is old and losing touch and all that kind of stuff. So I think, if nothing else, that was good. But I don't understand the purpose of the debate at this point, because I guess the only thing is that there are some people who are still not sure of Kamala Harris. And I genuinely do think that Trump's criticism of her, that she doesn't have a plan, was valid, because I haven't looked, but have they published a policy platform? He doesn't know the difference between political asylum and a mental asylum, and Harris is smart enough to bait him, let him spiral, and not stop. Yeah. I honestly do think she should have gone for the throat more too. But it's crazy, like, she can't go for the throat about him being like a convicted felon and like suspected of being a pedophile, because he'll just turn around and be like, well, you made that stuff up. Oh, something else that I noticed about Trump during this is that he kept accusing her of doing stuff that he himself has done. Like, he weaponized the Department of Justice or whatever, and he would keep accusing her of doing that. Like, oh, you did it. No, you did it. No, you're lying. It was super weird. It's for the undecided moderates, aka the dumbest voters in the country. The debate was all about vibes. My children, members of the Horde, the dragon is here to tell you that every debate is about vibes. It's not about being correct. It's about being convincing. Which is why even Kamala Harris can be asked direct questions like, do you feel that you are personally responsible in part for the clusterfuck that was like the US leaving Afghanistan? And for her to just completely circumnavigate the question and not answer it. They do have a platform, at least they did at the DNC. It's the same as last time, except they removed being against the death penalty. Yeah. And we've talked about it before, that she, like, previously said she was for Medicare for all, and now she's like, no, I support private insurance. It's just very disappointing overall. But I'm glad that, you know, some people who are like, I'm not sure about voting for a woman, like, if they feel a little bit more confident, circumnavigate is when you're Magellan. Okay, my bad. I misspoke. But yeah, if some people are like more likely to vote for her now after this debate, then cool, great. I'm glad. I still found it really irritating. Business interests affecting policy? Gasp. I know. I do keep in mind that the money in politics problem realistically limits what Democrats running for office can say on certain issues, because lobbyists have their hands tied on economy and foreign affairs more often than Republicans. I mean, are they... like, what's worse for them? Not having as much money for their campaign? Or, like, potentially hundreds of thousands of voters who don't like them being right-wing, you know what I mean? Thanks to the Supreme Court that they will do nothing about, Democrats can, quote, try to do policies people want, but not actually worry about upsetting their donors. True. You know, so also, another thing about the debate, Kamala accused Donald Trump of, like, he wants things to run on. He doesn't want to solve problems. He wants to run on problems. And I just wanted to stare at her and go, like, excuse me, the party of we'll enshrine Roe v. Wade into law for 50 years and then never did? You're trying to say that Donald Trump wants to run on problems instead of solve them? Okay, sure. Yeah, abortion is the carrot both parties dangle. And of course, Trump didn't answer the direct question of, like, would you sign a total abortion ban? He's like, I wouldn't have to. We're not going to do that. It's up to the states now. That's what everybody wanted. Like, okay, but in a hypothetical situation, would you? Refuses to answer. Thank you to the patrons, especially Bo E, Hapax Legomenon Patient Advocate, Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Sarah A., Jack, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, Suzanne Maynard, DZXN, Jamie Jam, Nova, Sojo, Past Null Infinity, Elizabeth Bartell, Jericho, Athiet, Desi Quiche, Celeste, Mr. Atheist, Liam Hodgson, Kevin Young, and Ella V. Nobody.